Hello! Today's Volume 4, The Game of Names, is all about magicians. Brought to you by Numbers, Letters, and the Truth. I'm going to jump right into it because we all know what magic is. It's the manifested, active, generated, identified concept. When you generate an identified concept and you manifest it actively, it's magic. See what I'm saying? So, bam, we're going to start with one of the most popular, David Copperfield. Now, if there's a shine on here, I'll make sure that I put all the stuff in writing along with here. But we have David Copperfield, whose real name is David Seth Kotkin. Now, we all know, or at least many of us know, that copper is a great conductor. So if you field something that can conduct, and you are, like, this is where I'm going to get into saying how D isn't just dia, because it's dia when you're talking about something, to or from, D-I-A, the act of what coming through. And then the doorway or the doer, because that's what something's coming through. Dia, through which it expresses the doer or the doorway. So dia, to or from, the active, vital, identified doer, concept ongoing, in place upon itself, expressed reference, form identified, expressed in a 3D world, to or from. Copperfield. He could feel and conduct. But with his middle name being Seth, subject expressed plus here, and his last name really being Kotkin, kinetic ongoing plus kinetic identified notion. Do you see how that's exactly a magician's name? And just coincidentally, which is not a coincidence, his birthday happens to be September 16th, 1956. We have 9 identified, 16 potential or placement, 19 subject expressing form or force. David Copperfield, David Seth Kotkin, 9/16/1956. Follow me? Now we'll move on to the next one. Kapow! We've got David Blaine, moving on from David Copperfield to David Blaine. Dia, active vital identity, doer or to or from, base 3D active identified notion expressed. David Blaine, born on 4/4, which is to or from, subject generated unseen concept. Magician, illusionist, David Blaine. See what I mean? Once again, it's not hard to see when you simplify your mind and see what we're all doing here. We're letting major crazy stuff happen when all we have to do is stand up to it and then not get stuck in the negative side. Yes, I of course do have issues with some of that sometimes when it has to do with my kids and the world around me. I know they'll be fine, but I'm not just going to sit back and do nothing. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all going through this learning experience, so that we can do this together, not separate. Next. All right, our next magician or illusionist is Criss Angel. Now, he spells it C-R-I-S-S, unseen concept, reference, identified subject thing upon itself, active notion generator, as in the active notion generator or generated, that's a name of God, Aang. And then E-L, Aang is usually like an avatar name. Of course, like the movie Avatar and the show Avatar actually has Aang as the avatar's name. E-L expressed as it lie in the 3D world. So it's the avatar of God. Concept rise, or concept ris. But now his real name, concept here, reference, identified subject, plus ongoing PH, body, express reference, or potential here expressed reference. Middle name, notion identified, concept here, ongoing as it lie in a 3D world, active subject. Now, his last name, subject active reference, active notion, plus active kinetic, ongoing subject. Do you see how if you really take those and write them out and if you have to do all that, then do it. And you'll see that these things are accurate. And these people are doing exactly what their part says to play. Now, 12, 19, 1967. December, we can say it's L, or as it lie, subject or actively identified, actively based, actively identified, subjecting, form or force, generator. Come on. It resonates completely, and that's why these people are known for these things. On to the next one. Poof. All right. I moved my blankets out of the way because it was a little chilly last night, so I had to do my meditation with some warmth. But I moved them out of the way. So, next one. Harry Houdini. Not his real name, but if you just say, here active reference upon itself, vitally identified, Harry, whoever you are here as your vital identity, here ongoing, underlined, Dinny. To or from, identified, notion, identified. A din is your inner fire. So Harry Houdini, or Houdini, of course. But his real name, Eric Weiss. Now, express reference, identified, kinetic. Plural expression, identified subject from one side to the other. So he literally had a magic name. 3/24/1874. March, or as in the unseen concept, 24, the X, or the center, or the based dia, to or from. 18 being the reference, generating, to or from. Magician. Escape artist. See? Harry Houdini. Now we'll move on to where he got his inspiration from. So the rest of these magicians may be people that not many have heard of unless you're really into magic. But that's why I figured I'd throw them in, because you got to see that this has always gone on. This has always been happening. And that's why on some of the previous videos I've mentioned people from the 1800s and 1700s and stuff like that. But it's because time is non-existent. We're only in it to learn from it. So, Jean-Eugene Robert Houdin. This is where Houdini got his inspiration from. But if you see, when there's a hyphen, that means here, vitally identified, place here, expressed notion. When something's hyphen, it's with the same thing. It's that here, vitally identified, placement here, expressed notion. When two things are hyphenated, they're the same. It's like the same subject. Almost like a separated word, but put together with a hyphen. So, Jean-Eugene. Now we're saying the junction of his identity, or the junction of energy, expressed active notion, along with its expressed underlying, generated, coming from expression, notion, expressing. You see how, and his name has that inward accent, not the outward accent. It's Jean-Eugene. And then Robert Houdin. Reoccurring, ongoing, base, express, reference, plus here, ongoing, unit, to or from, identified, notion. Jean-Eugene Robert Houdin. Now, December 7th, 1805. As it lie, or actively based, generating, the reference, ongoing, or this is an O, or a zero, not an O, but you can say reference, ongoing, expression. So he's, as he lies, or actively based, generating the reference of ongoing expression. Whatever he's trying to do, he put his mind to it, and he was a great magician. So, see, none of these are going to be misleading. You'll be able to see that they all accurately work out. It's just no one else has had the deep experience that I've had. And it's not that all the people trying to expose negative things and all the people trying to talk back about the system are wrong, per se. It's just they are putting their focus on something that creates worse. And if they don't understand that, and I'm trying to show them the magic of things. If you speak things into existence, then talking about things you don't intend to do anything about, besides talk about, is only speaking them more into existence. You've got to understand that. Because if you don't stop doing it, and you don't start showing love, compassion, and actually give better examples of what to do, more than the negative, you're only causing more problems. And until you get that, until more get that. We're going to be going in this loop. So, next. All right, the next magician, Darren Brown. To or from, expressed reference, reference expressed notion. So it's to or from, that expression, referenced upon itself, expressing notion. That's the way Darren is spelled in his case. Base reference ongoing, plural, notion. So he can take base reference ongoing plural notion and through himself, dia expressed reference upon himself, expressing the notion of basic, what's round. I mean, I'm just trying to use these simple words to show you, and that's what they mean by their shapes and letters. And if you need to understand that more, I do have videos going way into detail about why I use those words for those letters. And then you'll understand it more, instead of being like, oh, this guy just keeps saying these same things. They make sense, but where does he get it from? And you'll understand if you looked. Now, 2/27/1971. 27 is the first time we run into this, but 27 is the 27th letter, or the question mark, because 9 is shaped like this, R is shaped like this, and question mark is this. If you took the side off of an R and put the line straight down, you would have a question mark. Boop. I'm trying to make a question mark with my one hand. It's not going to happen. So if you understand that the Z going from one side to the other, and then the question mark is now down here. You've got that dot of the I again, which is 9, I. Now we've gone into twents, and you've got a question mark after Z. What happens when it starts over? 27. 28 is between here and here. 29 is identified between here. Based identity. Based here. Based identity. 30. 3D. You know what I mean? It's not rocket science, but most people just can't get it. So, Darren Brown, to or from expressed reference upon itself, expressing or notion, base reference ongoing plural notion. So other people are going to see him as a Darren, as a to or from express reference expressing notion. They're going to see him as magician. It just goes right with his name. Now 2/27, we'll say based generator, and 1971 is subject generating action, or some subject generated active. So see, once again, it's another math name, or it's another magician name when it adds up. When I said before, just like 50 and 50 equal 100, so do 25, 25, 25, and 25. So do 3 33s plus 1. They add up. And in that same way, the vast variety of numbers and letters, especially letters when it comes to names, but the vast variety of letters that we can scramble and put into different names, along with different dates, along with different places, makes so much happen in the world that most people will never be able to understand it, because they're too stuck watching their TV, playing on their phone, wanting all their gadgets. And until they stop doing that, it's almost hopeless, but hope is never gone. You just got to give people the right information. And I have it. Don't want anything from you. Just want to open your heart. And if that's bad, so sue me. Anyway, next. Whoop, whoop. All right. The next one is Day, or David Vernon. Born June 11th, 1894. Now, Day is his nickname, but that's what he's known by. And when somebody says your name, the name is power. So if you go by Day Vernon, then that's going to be a lot of power associated with that name. But since you've gone most of your name as your original birth name, that holds a lot of power too. And it always ends up translating. So, Day, to or from active identity, or to or from active vital identity, doer. Vital expressed reference, notion, ongoing notion. When you have non by itself, it's just, this starts it. What's there? Nothing. Ongoing notion. Non. It's the ongoing notion of none or no. So then when you say vital expressed reference, notion, ongoing notion, now your expressed reference becomes vital through, not day, or the dia, or to or from active vital identified doer, David Vernon, or Day Vernon. Now we have June 6, the form familiar number, 11, kinetic or actively active, 18, reference or active here, 9, identified, 4, to or from. Do you see how this always ends up adding up to who they are? Now, when you do this for other people, you say, well, it couldn't be different for other people, but it is. It's way different for every person, every place, everything. There's not one thing this doesn't apply to. And I saw it before this planet started. So when I say that, I know how it sounds, but it's true. So I'm not going to just not say it. There's so many people out there saying things that aren't true, that are trying to get something from you. I'm saying what is true, and I want nothing from you. But for some reason, you don't want to believe me. You want to look at other people trying to say, yeah, go get your freedom back by signing some papers. Let's fight back against a system that never actually had the right to own us. But let's spend our time doing that so that we can be qualified within that system, and we can then learn how to accept it. No. If you end up becoming part of it, you end up being more complacent and you end up accepting it. That is the biggest issue, where people want it easier on themselves by doing something just to lessen it a little bit. And then they can still work within the system. You can't work within the system. It has to come apart. And that's okay. No big deal. If we die in the process, trust me, you don't die. You will never die. Just be ready for doing the right thing. And if that ends up harming you in a negative way, or doing something bad to you, or having something be done to you, you did the right thing. It's just there are so many people doing the wrong thing. And if we don't see that, we just aren't trying. So, all right, the next one is another magician that may not be well known, but he was a very well famed stage magician named Harry Baton Blackstone. Now, we know what a baton is, but what do magicians use? They use a wand. So it's here, active, reference upon itself, vitally identified, base, ongoing, underlined, plus ongoing notion. So a person plus his ongoing notion. Blackstone, base, 3D, active, unseen concept, kinetic, subjecting, plus ongoing notion expressed. Born 9/27/1885. This day has a very powerful meaning for me because it was the day that I became enlightened, but not that year, of course. We'll get into that on some other day. September 27th, identified, question mark, or identified base generator. 18 as in reference or active here, here expressed. Magician, voila. I'm telling you, they don't make these marker boards like they used to. I mean, it's almost a magic trick that these things are so damn invisible trying to use them. Anyway, the next magician, Harlan Eugene Tarbell. Now, have you noticed that there's been a lot of Harrys? There's been more than one person with Eugene in his name, because these are names that pull certain energies in. Eugene is the gene, the EU gene, the expressed, underlying, generated, expressed, notion expressed. Now that makes sense. And if you would look into these people, you'd see why they did the kinds of things they did. So, Harlan, here active reference, 3D active notion, expressed, underlined, generated, expressed, notion expressed. Tarbell. Now when you understand what TAR is, the active, outward territory. But only when we say it in certain ways. Like tar is just like something plus active reference. It's tar. It's usually black goo. But that you'll see what I mean as we go into something like territory, because that's expressed outwardly. Tarbell is plus active reference. Base expressed between here and here. Two L's make X. Or you could say as it lay, as it lay. So here active reference, as it lay in the 3D world, active notion, expressed, underlined, or expressed unit, generated, expressed notion expressed, plus active reference, base expressed, as it lie, as it lie. Actively based, actively based. See what I mean? Now, 2/23/1890, base, plural, or W, the vitally vital, based, plural, reference, identified, ongoing. So whatever he can magically come up with, he can manifest. Harlan Eugene Tarbell. Now, these kind of things, as tedious as they may be to you guys, isn't it tedious to see all the hideousness that we take part in or we allow to happen? I would say, but maybe some people like it. I sure as hell don't. So I'm trying to show you the magic in our world instead of the tragic in our world. I think I've got a couple more, two more, and we'll wrap this up. Bam. 2 more to go. We got Doug Henning. Now, you know what a hen does. A hen hatches eggs. It's a here expressed notion or here expressed nature, because when it is in nature, it's in nature. Here expressing nature. Hen, the female chicken. But now you can say Doug, the doer ongoing, or the doer or dia, to or from, ongoing underline generated, full name Douglas, 3D active subject. So dia ongoing underline generated 3D active subject. Middle name James, the junction of a Douglas, the doer ongoing underline generated 3D active subject, the junction of that active manifested expressed subject, and Henning, as in here expressed notion upon itself, identified notion generated. See? So Doug is to do underline generation. Born 5/3/1947. May, or 5, the expression. 3, the unseen concept. So express your concept as a subject to or from generated. Yeah. Pick a card, any card. Our last one is a popular stage magician and other magician who did a lot of things and was known as Cardini. So, Richard Valentine Pitchford, November 24th, 1895. Now notice he has card in it. Reference identified, concept here active, reference to or from. Vital active 3D, expressed notion, plus identified notion expressed. Potential or placement, identified plus concept here, form or force, ongoing reference to or from. So he used cards and did things with their pictures, pitch forward. It's not just playing on words, it's what they resonate with. When you understand that resound and resign with is what resonate means on some levels, there are more levels to it, but we can't get to those deeper levels until people start understanding this. This isn't as simple as I'm making it, because I've been through this. I've been magicians, and I've been gypsies, and I've been just everything anyone can imagine. That's why I don't get fascinated or shocked by it. The thing that bothers me is this physical world being so out of tune and so malfunctioned, and nobody caring enough to do the right thing, which is take down all these big corporations, shut down all the TV shows and TV channels that are putting out smut, because that's infecting us. Not just the foods, the mental foods. So, kinetic, centered, reference, identified, expression. Kinetic is K, or actively active. 24 is X, or based to or from. 18 is R, or active here. Identified is, or 9 is identified, and 5 is expression. So, I know I whipped through those pretty quick because I just want to show you guys that this is how things are working. This is how things will always work. It's how they've always worked, and they won't stop. In this universe, at least, they do change other ones. But trying to speak that and talk that to other people just freaks them out, because then it starts making sense and weird things start happening in the world. I know, because all this stuff started happening when I started talking about it. 5 years ago, before the big pandemic, I knew about it. I talked about it. I brought it up, and it happened. Other things that I'm not going to mention here because I want this to be on YouTube, and I care about you guys. I know that they're just doing their jobs, but it sucks that they censor people, especially ones that have real answers that aren't just trying to push an agenda. Like, I'm right here, and I'm doing the right thing by teaching people the subtle, simple truth in the words that we all live under. the magic that we are as God, the creators, the divine beings that we all are. And some of us have just lost that so much, they came back as one who seems like a soulless entity. But if you're here and you can physically feel and emotionally gauge things, you still have something left in there. You're just, a lot of us are that far gone. I'm not. I'm shining bright, and I'm here to help you find yours, the light inside. So I just want to close this by saying the things we need the most to focus on are the things that most of us aren't doing, or that most of us forgot about. The magic within us, the magic in this universe, won't change, but the lack of understanding, the lack of care, and the lack of looking into what is more subtle is what's bothering people and what's causing all this. Because some people just can't sit and close their mind and shut it off and be at one with nature, because they think that's boring. But I'll tell you what's really boring and what's really freaking frightening to watch on some level is people being that boorish and being that brutish and not thinking anything of it and saying, no, you can do what you want. That's what freedom is. No, it's not. True freedom is not that. Because if you wanted true freedom, you would treat others the way you expect to be treated, or else it's just going to be turmoil and chaos, true chaos. So, until next time, peace out. I love you from the bottom of my heart. God bless.